can't help themselves. You know, like you get some people who always go back to those relationships that are no good for them.
Okay, so you're talking about unhealthy relationships, unhealthy abuse, where like you out of the situation,
but you keep running back to it.
Okay, I understand.
Because that's your comfort zone.
That's where you feel.
That's where you feel loved at. That's where you feel good at.
Okay, I got it now. I was in a total different space, to be honest with you.
You was in a total different space. Huh?
Yeah.
Why was that? Huh?
Because I didn't understand what that meant, what you meant by that. Your whole, what's the name? But now that you explained it further, I understand that you mean that people in general, and men tend to not, like you said, admit that they run back because our egos and our bravados will put us in a space where, yo, I ain't running back to, yo, you doing the same thing that chick did. You smacked her 20 times and she came back. She went out there and slept over you with your mans and your mans, and you take her back because you feel like you need her in your life because she stabilized certain situations. We have a caller calling in.
Answer the phone.
Hello, caller.
Who's on the line?
Peace. This is Salih Bey. Shout out to
Peace, Salih.
P Squared. Feel Good Radio Show.
What's good, bro, man?
What's up? DJ
What's up?
What's up? CP, what's up?
What it do, baby? What it do, man?
Ain't nothing. You know I gotta reach out when I hear interesting topic.
Yeah, man. So
Not that they're
we talking
all
about
of them are quite interesting, but you always ring the bell, TP.
yeah. Well, listen. You already know how the principal do, man. You already know how the principal do.
I don't know if I had to get off the air, so I can't really hear where y'all left off or where y'all started.
But what we talking about is being conditioned for abuse. Like,
I can
and you can be conditioned for abuse on many levels.
Yes, absolutely.
And it doesn't just have to be in your relationship with your woman or with your man. It could be in a relationship at work. Your friendships.
Yeah, it could. And it also could stem. It could be deeply rooted from childhood traumas, past relationships. So the conditioning can be passive, or it can be aggressive.
Absolutely.
So I say that to say, like, you could deal with a woman that has been in an abusive relationship, and she carries that over, or a male that's been in a, I don't want to be biased, you know what I'm saying, a male been in an abusive relationship, and he carries that over into the next situation, but passively. So just in communication, the communication can be slighted because of that, So it goes both ways, and my thing is, how do you identify with when you're being conditioned for abuse? That's the key, because until you can identify with actually what's going on, there's no resolution. There's no the healing process, And we're in times where a lot of people are becoming enlightened, so to say. Woke is the word that everybody is utilizing. So my question is, how do you identify with that kind of abuse? Excuse me.
I think this is Rudd speaking. I'm not speaking for the team, and the views of DJ Rudd are not necessarily that of Gynesis Radio or its sponsors. But yeah, I got to get a disclaimer before we get deep into this. But I think people recognize the signs. I think part of the conditioning is they don't see a way out. Like, sometimes you might know you're in an abusive situation, but it might take a year or two for you to actually put an exit strategy together. Like, a lot of times it's fear of the unknown, or it's fear of being alone, or if it's a friendship thing, it's like we just went through this with music. You know, we in an abusive situation. Sometimes until you see something better, you might stick around in this abusive situation for a little longer than you would have if you had different options. If you know what I'm saying, you know what I mean. So I think a lot of people do recognize it. I think in my case, it would be somebody else to tell me that. Yo, why you let this one take advantage of you like that or whatever. It usually be somebody else bringing it to your attention. Then sometimes I think we just stay in that situation until we can explore some other options or put together a exit strategy. That's what I think about it.
Okay, so you're saying that basically people do identify with it. They see the red flags, but it takes a while to actually get out of the situation.
Or they afraid to get out of it. I think they realize there's something better on the other side, but they don't know how to get to the other side. And this is why we try to create these type of platforms, you know, because this a whole, like you said, it depends on what your definition of abuse is too. I think we need to start with that, because everybody might have a different definition of abuse, you know. And like we said, we're not just talking about, you know, man and woman relationships. We're talking about employment abuse. I know I've been in employment abuse many a times, and I know for a fact that I've been at jobs that they might not care for me, but they tolerate me. But if I was to come from a position like I need the job, and my next check depends on this, or if I start saying I'm 2 paychecks away from being homeless or something like that, if we take that mentality, that puts your employer in another mindset, like we need you. Like he needs this job, so he ain't gonna quit and boom, 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 boom. But if they looking at me like, yo, this dude already got something going on, it's more like we want you, but we don't need you. And that gives you kind of an advantage. And like I said, we can talk about anything. It's the same thing. You know, if you're working with 4 different producers, then you're not in a position where one producer can hold you hostage. He knows you got options now. If you in a spousal relationship, listen, man, just something simple as we out at dinner and the next chick is looking at me. Look, my wife is not gonna get jealous. Like, she have to take the position, hey, if nobody wants you, I wouldn't want you either.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? If nobody else wanted you, I probably wouldn't want you either. So, you know, it's good to feel wanted in that aspect. That's not abuse, but it's just like, don't think that you the end all be all. Like, I was doing fine before I met you, and hopefully I'll be doing fine if it comes to the point where we got to go our separate ways. And I think the more that we become well-rounded in our own circumference, that gives you a less chance of being abused. Like when I came to the table with something. When I met my wife, I already had a house. I already had my own income. She already had her own house. She already had her own income. Now that's different. That's like 2 businesses saying, let's merge and let's see what we can do together to accomplish more. But if it's like one person coming to the table with nothing, eventually the person that's going out to hunt and bring the meat home every day, sometimes they're gonna feel like, damn, I'm not getting no help. This is starting to feel abusive. You know what I mean? Like, you got to bring something to the table besides a smile, or, you know, besides a pretty face, or, you know, what are we doing here? Are we trying to build something together, or you just supporting me on the bill? Whatever it is, it got to be a discussion. It have to be a discussion. If it's in agreement and we all in agreement, you can't say it's abuse later. If you came in the table and we say, oh, listen, this is my part. I'm going to be the breadwinner. You going to stay home, babysit, cook, or clean, whatever you doing. If you agree to that, you can't say that's abuse 2 years later. You know what I mean? Like, you knew what it was coming in. But what happens is a lot of people agree to something at the beginning, then it changes. And I will give you a prime example. This is just speaking from my personal experience. When I first met my wife, we had these discussions about, like, vacations. She said, well, you know, I like to travel, but she said, I don't have to go somewhere all the time. I like to go somewhere at least like once a twice a year. So I'm like, all right, I could do that. We could do that. You know what I mean? I didn't think that was unreasonable. But 5 years later, she got a job at the airlines and we can fly for free. Now that turned into I want to go somewhere every month. But I'm like, but pump your brakes. I didn't agree to that. You know what I'm saying? I agreed to once or twice a year on vacation because even though those plane tickets is free, everything else still costs money. We still got to get in the hotel, rent cars, and it still might knock me off of my financial strategy course. We still spending money. So at that point now, we got to renegotiate. And now I might have to play a little give and take, or I might have to say, you know what, let's try something every 2-3 months. I can't go every month, but I understand you want to use them flying privileges, so, we could have another conversation. So the original agreements could change along the line, but I can't turn around and say it's abuse.
Nah, because you agreed to that in the first place. I think a lot of it comes also from, this is Dutch, I think a lot of it also comes from complacency. You know what I mean? We get complacent in our jobs. We get complacent in our relationship. We get complacent in our friendships. Like, if we, at work, we know I got it, like you said, bro, I got a steady check coming in, so I ain't going out to look for another job or trying to get this hustle on by myself and be an entrepreneur. But I know this check is here. Or trying to, you in a bad relationship with your lady, and you like, you know what? Going out and finding another chick is a headache. They just pains. I went through this with her, and it's a problem.
Yeah, I haven't dated in 10 years.
Yeah,
I don't even know about the dating game now.
Exactly. So all this, it comes complacency. If you're comfortable where you at without trying to do anything different, that's where you're gonna stay because that's there. That's there for a given. So a lot of it has to do with complacency also, because if not, you'll be out doing whatever. You at your job, your boss is a buttwad, and you know this, but you saying, well, the money's good, I'm good, I don't have to do but so much, and that's where it goes. I'm good. Instead of saying, yo, I want more. He's a butthead, and I can't deal with him being a butthead. So now I gotta find another lane to get that same money that he's giving me. And like I said, being complacent make you say, nah, I'm good. So it's a lot of things.
Excuse me. So basically, codependency can also be a part of an abusive condition.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely, Salih, absolutely. The principal kind of quiet. He started all this mess, and he ain't saying nothing. You see this, Dutch?
No. I'm over here working on some things while y'all having this discussion. I'm gonna jump right in, because y'all doing pretty good,
Well, listen, I think, like I said, I think we need to really start out. We need to really start the show over by going around the room and let's hear what your definition of abuse is. Because, like we said, abuse, what I might consider abusive, you might not consider abusive. You might be like, yo, Run, you shouldn't be complaining about that. You know what I mean? So, one man's garbage is the next man's treasure. That's what they say, right?
Yeah, but
I heard that before.
I'd be like, she's trash. And then somebody else would be like, if I had that, if I had that,
I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah, I could win with that situation.
Exactly, they can run right. Somebody throwing something away, somebody stop and pick that up.
That's right. So I guess it depends on what your definition of abuse is.
Exactly.
I don't really think nobody could abuse you unless you allow it, though.
That's what TP talking about, though.
You have to at some point recognize it, and you kind of accepting it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of that have to do with you.
Sometimes we can be. That's where the conditioning comes into play. It's not that you're allowing it; you can be used to it. You understand? Like you can be like they say that some people have argumentative spirits, right? They like to argue all the time. You can be with a person that argues all the time, or complaining spirit that complains all the time, to the point where you're conditioned to hear the complaint or the argument. To the point where, I mean, you're sharing energy. You know, we all, I don't know, I mean, all of us have partners. We take on each other's traits. So the more that you're in a situation where you're getting the same vibration, the same frequency daily, you're conditioned for that, you know? And that's why I said that for me, I asked the question, well, how do you identify with it if it becomes the norm? Of course, you get the red flags, and yeah, it takes time. There's a list of things that can keep a person within those situations. We spoke on production. I won't go into the detail, but you know, you go through those things where people do things for so long the same way that, and they answer. I call it the scavenger mentality, where you've been doing the same thing for so long, you learn how to survive that way. And when you're moving around like that, or you think like that, you speak in certain terms. So we have these cliche words, you know, these cliche phrases, you know, and people stick to those phrases and live by those phrases, and don't really actually realize that we are human beings, not human beings. Evolution is the inevitable. So things are always subject to change. At one point in time, Carl Lewis was the fastest man on earth. He's not anymore. You know, so that says some people are conditioned and they stay stuck. They stay stuck in that mentality. It's very hard to pay attention to self. But the work is noted. When you can do some introspection on yourself, is deeply noted, and you can make some powerful shifts, and a lot of healing starts there. Rod, you said something that was interesting to me. You know, when you're dealing with a companion, you have that conversation. One stays home, and one goes to work. I don't think, I'm saying from my experience, personally, I never had that conversation. I never had the conversation before dating or marriage. This is the objective. I think a lot of relationships fail because they don't do that. We don't know actually what each other's purpose is or one another's goals are. So that you really should date for a while. You know what I mean? A lot of people lay down quick. They fall in love with the flesh quickly, and they don't do the due diligence in actually getting to know the person and what their goals are and what their objectives in life actually are. And then we live in a society that gives us a norm. Status quo gives a norm. So
it depends on the person, man. It depends on the person and where you at, man. When I
right.
Pardon me for cutting you off, but I'm just saying, when I was a teenager, in my rabbit mind, I went and got an apartment because I was just thinking, I'm tired of spending money at the hotel. It's cheaper to get an apartment. That was my main reason for getting it. It wasn't like I was trying to plan a life with somebody or nothing like that. I was thinking of it from an economical standpoint. Every night I'm going to spend $100 in the short stay. I might as well get an apartment. You know what I mean? And That's all it was. Now, somebody else might think I was creating an abusive situation, but I really wasn't looking at it like that. You know what I mean? So it depends on where you at in life, too, and where you at as far as maturity. But not only relationships with, like I said, with men and women fail because of the lack of that conversation. Like I said, we need to have these conversations in business before we get in bed with people. Because we always jump the gun. We get excited, whether it's for flesh excitement or whatever it is. I mean, me and the bros, excitement. Yeah, we have this conversation all the time.
Yep.
One thing that attracted me to the one girl was that she helped me fix my car. I was like, yo, she's a keeper. She helped me fix my car. You know what I mean? But years later, she was way ahead of the game on that little $300 investment she made.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
you really need to look at a situation for 6 months to a year before you, and sometimes more than that, because some of these con artists are really good. They can really fake you out for 2-3 years before they really show you their real self. But at some point, if you pay attention, you're gonna see it. You just got to be paying attention. You can't get blindsided by the glitz and the glamour. You know what I mean? It's like the record deal. You know, they send you to the over here, over there. They shooting $1 million videos, and then when you get your check, they be like, oh, and by the way, you know, all of that got to come back. And you be like, nah, we didn't have that discussion. Yeah, it's in the small print. You know what I mean? You didn't read page 30. You be like, nah, I stopped at page 20. I got tired. Yeah.
I just pressed agree.
Yeah. I just signed a dotted line.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we gotta. I'm not saying everybody need a prenuptial agreement or nothing like that. I'm just saying we need a conversation, and then we know what it is. The problem is, people say they are in agreement with something. And a lot of times it'll be a man or a woman. It could be like, yeah, I'm married, and they say, I don't care. I'm gonna play my position. I'm gonna be number 2, all that stuff, right? That sounds like an agreement to me, right?
Yeah.
But then, like a year later, it'll turn into, I thought I could handle it, but now I want you all to myself. And you be like, better get Mako. Yeah. How y'all young boys say now?
Exactly.
Pump the brakes now. Because sometimes you really think you can handle some type of abuse, because it don't seem like abuse, you know. When you with the person, they treating you nice, treating them nice. This don't feel abusive. But then somewhere along the line, it hits you. Or somebody else say something to you. How long you gonna be the side chick? All it takes is one of the girlfriends or somebody say, how long you gonna be side chick? And then that's it.
Or one of the fellas to say,
or one of the fellas.
You know you playing yourself, right?
How many of our bros done backstabbed us talking to other girls? Yo. And then plant the seed in somebody's head.
Yeah.
And then what they was accepting all this time, now they not accepting that no more, because now they got enlightened. Like you said, they're enlightened. So I think they know what it is. I think people recognize abuse. They willing to accept a certain amount. But at some point, you're going to draw the line in the sand. You're going to be like, listen, if you cross this line, I can't take it no more. That's it. So where that line in the sand is, some people might have a larger degree of tolerance than others. Some people, they ain't taking the slightest. As soon as they see a sign, they out. And then some people have more tolerance, man. It depends on the person. Principal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What you think, man?
Hey, man, you know, it sounds like brand new money to me, man. What you saying is nothing but the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. Because in most cases, when you're conditioned for abuse, it comes from, it can be, like Dutch said, it can be from your childhood trauma, you know. Being conditioned for abuse can be something as simple as you don't speak up for yourself. You follow the lead. You are a follower, you know, and that's a sign of being conditioned for abuse, because you're afraid to speak up and lend your opinion to the situation and tell people how you feel about it, you know. So there's a whole lot of things we can go with that, but when it comes to men and women, we're gonna get deep on that. I'm gonna get deep on that, but I'm over here working on something right now. So y'all carry this conversation for a few minutes, because I'm over here working on something, trying to get a little bug worked out over here. So you know, go ahead, Dutch, you got it.
Yo, it's okay. Rudd said something earlier, and I'm gonna feed off it. When I first moved to PA, me and my wife sat down, and she was still working in the city, so somebody had to be with the kids. So we said, 2 years, I'm gonna stay home with the kids and make sure everything's right and okay. Now, my lackadaisical ass, excuse the French, that 2 years turned into 2.5 years because I was complacent with where we was at. She wasn't complaining. You know what I'm saying? She was just like, boom. And to that day, she made that first complaint, and that was it. Because, one thing you're not going to do, you're not going to make me feel like I owe you something. You know what I'm saying? We, like you said, we made this deal. Until she said something about us making this deal, it was like, okay, it has been almost 3 years instead of that 2 years that you gave me. You know what I'm saying? Because now my oldest was able to watch my youngest now. They wasn't on the same, well, she's in track practice and then I got drop off at track practice and still be there for my youngest daughter. You know what I mean? Oldest wasn't into sports like that now. My youngest was the sports and the oldest was in the books. So, like I said, I got complacent into where that I was just, she ain't saying nothing, so I'm going to just ride it out.
Yeah, we must be good. She ain't complaining.
Exactly. But once, like I said, once she said something, I didn't care if it was Kentucky Fried at this time. You said something, so that means it's bothering you. And if I want to keep this going the way that it's going, I got to do something. Because you ain't asking me to do everything. You just asking me to do something. So, but now, she was on the other foot. And I wouldn't dare, because I know at that time, she held me down for that time.
Right.
And since COVID, she hasn't worked. And we all know that unemployment well is run dry.
That's
you know what I'm saying? So, but I'm not going to look at her and say, okay, that's your 2 years. Nah, because first of all, I'm the man, so I'm supposed to be the provider and, take care of my family, which I think is a discussion that could be had with this new day and time with these women that want to be independent and I'm that B, or you know what I'm saying? If you that B, you supposed to hold it down. You go out there and blow that driveway and make sure that snow is off the steps and you fix that tire and you do everything that this man is supposed to do in your eyes. And then when I tell you to cook and clean, you look at me like your head is twisting off, like, what do you mean? You know what I'm saying? So,
but here's the thing, I gotta add on, because at the end of the day, y'all survived the storm, y'all still together.
Oh yeah.
So, what I'm saying is, it sounds like the person that learns how to adapt to a situation might have a better survival rate and not being abusive, because as soon as she said something, you felt inclined to go do something. You didn't care if you had to work at KFC or whatever, you was going to do something. Whatever it was, you knew that was the warning shot. Right?
Exactly.
So you didn't ignore the shot. Now, you had to come back to the table and y'all had to renegotiate the original agreement.
Exactly.
So, as long as you're willing to adapt and you can adapt to different situations, I think that'll give you a less chance of even feeling like it's abusive. Because whenever life's going to throw you some stumbling blocks and you have to change plans sometimes. You can't stick to the same plan. Well, you said, I said this because this was the situation then. Look at Gynesis Radio. We had a plan. We had a real solid business plan. But the plan was originally made for 5 people to run this station. So now that is really just was me and TP at one point. We had to sit back at the table and we had to renegotiate the plan. We can't say, well, but you said only my job was to play music. All right, but we need somebody to clean the toilet. You know what I mean? Like, we need somebody to take the garbage out. And until we can figure that out, we might have to change the original agreement because we don't have 5 people no more. And it's the same thing. If you had a small kid at that time, that kid wasn't able to babysit at that time, but maybe 5-7 years later, you could go to work and you can feel comfortable that, they old enough to maintain until somebody get home, so you can renegotiate at that point.
And that's what it was. So when we renegotiated the deal, it was like, I'm not going to be dependent on you, or I'm not going to feel like I'm being abused by you saying. It's like, I can't explain it, but it was like, okay, shot, like you said, shot fired. And I'm going to put on my bulletproof vest and I'm going to go out there and take them shots and I'm going to make sure that everything is everything now. You know what I'm saying? And that's what happened. So
a lot of that is man's
ego,
foolish and ego pride, man. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, I don't necessarily buy into the man's supposed to do this and that. Look, there's some women that are standing on their own and they don't even have a man. So if you don't have a choice to do something, you're gonna figure it out unless you're just gonna lay down and quit. You know what I mean? So if you're not a quitter, you're gonna figure it out. But if I go to the restaurant and somebody treat me to dinner, I ain't feeling bad about that. I'm feeling like, you know what? As many times I done footed the bill, I deserve to get treated sometime. Like you said, you gotta actually, your health is your wealth. So you really can't pour from an empty cup. If you don't have nothing to pour out, and the other person is like, I'm thirsty, I don't have nothing else in my cup. So it's my job to make sure that my cup is runneth over. And I don't mind sharing a little juice, but I gotta first make sure I'm good. I can't help anybody unless I'm in a mental space where I can really be helpful.
yeah.
I can't help you if I can't even help myself. How can I help you?
And that's the whole point. It's like,
Some people ain't looking for love though. They looking for help.